Hello and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Dutchbury, that's Oz. And we have...
I'm Ilya from Gamechanger Audio.
Come on, fresh off the plane. We've got Matisse and we've got Tom in the room as well. They are literally fresh off the plane that you changed for me.
No, this is...
Not for me, for you. And you brought the brand new Synth MKII, right?
That's it, yeah.
And in this video, I have to confess, I saw the initial videos that you did at Super Booth about a year ago. So I'm a massive fan. If you don't know about this product, we're going to try surmise it in a couple of minutes, but we might get into the weeds. So luckily, the guys here at the video department put the chapter markers in. So feel free to skip ahead and look for the different bits. Other than that, we're going to get into the video and we're going to aggressively fist bump. Right, what is Synth for someone that's never heard of it?
Okay. As the name suggests, it's a synthesizer that uses electromotors as the sound source. So perhaps you can hear that already as we speak. We have got a little bit of a background noise going on here. So this is an instrument that came out of the kind of engineering curiosity of what can we do with drone motors, and can we build a proper professional grade instrument out of drone motors. There have been, like, you can find experimental DIY projects with motors, that like musical DIY projects on YouTube, where people have hooked up little like guitar pickups to motors and stuff like that. But yeah, we just thought that somewhere around 2019 we had when we had the first idea to build a motor-based instrument. We just wanted to see how precise and how can we build a professional grade instrument out of electromotors. So the motor synth has 8 brushless DC electromotors, and each one of them is a oscillator. Its rotation frequency corresponds to a particular pitch, and there's all of these motors are digitally controlled to change their speed of rotation to a perfectly musical level of perfection. You know, like they're very precise. We can control the rotation speed of each individual motor with musical precision. That's what I wanted to say. And after that, like, we're using a lot of standard, and also sort of some things are kind of that we came up with. We're using a lot of synthesizer techniques like filtering, modulation, cross modulation, detuning, sequencing, arpeggiating, to make a fully fledged instrument out of those motor oscillators. Shall we hear it? Basically, motor synth is a spinny thing, makes sounds. Yeah.
Right, so we've got 8 oscillators. For someone, you explained the magic, the fact these are drone motors, right? All making beautiful musical sounds. And you alluded to the other features, but what are the other headlines? So we've got 8 oscillators, how many voices and filter typed LFOs, stuff like that?
Yeah, so there's 8 electromotors, and they are split between 2 identical motor voices. So we can see on the panel here, we've got motor voice 1, motor voice 2, and each one of them can use 4 of the 8 motors. So it's 4-note paraphony, it's called, because they're passing through all 4 oscillators are passing through one filter. But basically you can do 4-note voicings with each one of the motor voices. And then there's a third added digital voice, which the volume of that can be controlled here. It's also fully independent kind of digital voice that we've added in the Mark II version. So it's 2 4-note paraphonic motor oscillator voices and an added 4-note paraphonic digital voice.
Let's have a quick listen to those, laid out bare.
Yeah.
Is that right? So we
yeah,
get
absolutely.
To
Let's find the most
great,
the most stock sound, the basic sound.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the most basic sound that the motor synth can make. We've got all but the first voice muted. Right, I've got the latch button on, and then for now we're using the little built-in keypad. So what's going on here is, so this is the sound of voice 1. It's got a basic ADSR amp envelope.
It's so beautiful on its own.
So we're listening to one of the basic wave shapes. I guess if for somebody who knows nothing about the motor synth, I should explain about how the wave shapes are created with the motors, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna switch this off for now. So as I mentioned earlier, the pitch of the tone is determined by the rotation speed of each motor. So for example, and by changing the scale, they let's say each motor just raises its rotation speed to match double the frequency.
Wow.
Essentially, we've got 4 preset wave shapes that each motor voice offers. The first one is called M. Basically, it's an electromagnetic inductive waveform. That means, in so many words, it just means that there's, as the coils of an electromotor spin, they produce fluctuations in the magnetic field. And if you put like a little electromagnetic inductor or basic pickup next to the rotating coils, you can pick up those magnetic fluctuations and amplify them to audio level and produce a weird, uneven signal that's always going to change depending on the frequency and like the particular coils of that motor. So we've got a little oscilloscope. So that's an uneven, just electromagnetic.
Harmonically rich.
Yeah, it's. We can experiment kind of with the tuning.
I can't express how I hear a lot of synths in this room. Nothing sounds like this.
Well,
and it sounds so good. How? I'm interrupting. I said I wouldn't interrupt, but what was the eureka moment? Were you flying a drone?
Actually, we have a lot of the guys in the office. They have like drone hobbies. Yeah, we've got some people with the goggles as well.
Who came up with it?
So our main engineer, his name is Martin. He's also Martin.
What a mate.
I think he was the one who brought the idea. We'd already done the plus pedal and the plasma, and we were kind of like, oh, what should we do next? We have to come up with something even more crazy than like 3,000 volt Tesla coil. And then Martin said that like we're gonna do some motors, basically. And then 4 years later we have the motor Synth Mark II.
So beautiful.
We had no idea we had no idea what kind of level of complexity in terms of engineering like we were signing up for. But I mean, there's a dedicated fan base of the motor synth. They know the whole story. But the motor synth, we launched it almost 4 years ago. We announced like the first concept of it, and then there was the Mark I version, and now it's finally in production with the Mark II improved version. So.
But you can do. They look like traditional. Am I guessing that we can do?
So this idea kind of, and like coming back to your question, like There are famous clips on YouTube or something like Nick Cave's guitarist, like Bix the Bargeld or something. I think he was doing like a drill or next to the guitar pickups, like basically playing around with that electromagnetic inductivity thing. You can, if you take an electric drill or like whatever, place it next to a guitar pickup, you will get cool, interesting, weird signals. So that was our initial idea, like let's just make something out of it. We even at first we were trying to make a guitar pedal that was called the motor pedal, but that project was kind of like left at the initial prototype stage. So yeah.
Good idea, 'cause this is awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
The guitarists get all the good stuff.
Yeah, the guitarists have enough toys.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the M wave. That was the basic idea. But then we tried to like see, okay, what else can we do? Okay, we've got the motor. It spins. We can control its pitch. How do we add more diverse like tonal options like to it? Obviously, we've got all the filtering, all that stuff. But we kind of decided to develop a little bit of a novel, for us at least. In our like we designed these so-called optical discs. So what the optical discs do is there are 3 distinct tracks printed on a reflective aluminum surface, and these discs are mounted on the motor shafts. We've got a little like mini PCBs underneath each, like aligned underneath each motor, underneath those discs. And we've got infrared optical optocouples. So basically what an optocouple is like, it's a infrared light laser emitter that shoots an infrared light. And for example, when it's like a reflective surface bounces that infrared light back into the receiver of that optocouple. So as the discs spin, we've got 3 particular grooves, like kind of like graphical patterns printed on those discs. So one is a graphical representation of a sine wave, so meaning that the reflective bit, so it's laid out in a circular way, so it goes from being reflective to darker gradient, then back to reflective, and so it emulates a sine wave kind of trajectory from going gradually from being reflective to being absorbent. So as that disc spins, the wave either gets reflected strongly back into the into that infrared sensor, or when a darker segment passes, it gets absorbed and doesn't reflect. So then when you multiply that at audio rate speeds and amplify that optical signal, you get so-called optical sine wave. In this case, we can see the readout on the screen. This is a precise readout of what it's collecting right now. So it's one of the motors here is spinning. We've only got like now it's only one voice active. As you can see, it doesn't look anywhere near a perfect sine wave, but
it has that character of a sine wave to me as a layman.
It does. I mean, if you
so
filter
beautiful.
it a little bit, you get closer to a sine wave. But basically, it's like we're not claiming that we have
Now the world's got enough
physics.
Sine waves. This is
Exactly,
a
yeah.
new sine wave.
So it's a sine. It's the closest you can get when you're bouncing a ray of infrared light off of a reflective spinny sine wave thing. Yeah, whatever.
And you've done it with the other ones.
And then there's 3 others. So yeah, we've got like 3 optical tracks. So we've got the sawtooth shape. So it's got like the gradient is going reflective, dark, reflective, dark. So it's like just the periods like that. And then there's the square wave.
Really?
It sounds a little bit like a square wave. So that just means it's like it goes dark, reflective, and that's laid out across. There's 7 full cycles across the radius of the disc. That's the optical wave shapes that we managed to create using these discs.
Wow! And the scaling. Can we hear how low it goes? And
the benefit of the motors is that it's very easy for a motor to go slowly. Even more, yeah. We can amplify that.
The house is going to fall down.
So this is like an E0, which is crazy low. let's see how high we can go up. So the motors do have like something around a 7-octave limit.
Wow.
The reason why we can push them to such extremes, to such high, like you know, revolutions per second or per minute, whatever, such high rates, is because they're digitally controlled and they're designed to carry weight. They're designed to resist like forces of physics. They're designed to be used in like quadcopters and stuff like that, and fight wind resistance and stuff like that. So here they're literally being operated in sterile, completely sterile conditions. They're not forcing any resistance whatsoever. So for them, so it's just like, and they're contactless, so there's no erosion of the like so-called brushes or something like that. It's basically just a freely spinning like shaft with this disc mounted on top in an electrical field. Wow. So we get a lot of concerns from people like, oh, how much motor oil do I need to put into the synth or something like that. But the basic question is that it's built to last, and the motors, even though they make a noise, they're pretty much running at minimal friction, and there's almost no physical erosion happening here. So it's a mechanical oscillator at its like purest kind of.
Amazing, and I must say that there's no harshness. Even when you went up there, something about the movement, everything I've heard about this, I'm loving. It's just how it's softening the edges. Now, next up we've got, how is it addressing envelopes? I know the synth guys, how many envelopes do we have? An amp one, a filter one?
Yeah, we do. So that's voice one. I'm using the keypad now, for now, it's like, let's blend in voice two. I'm gonna change some waveforms around.
Oh my goodness. That's the first time I've ever played it. It's so exciting.
So we got the two voices, right? And we can do a lot of things. For example, like obviously what we just had going on here was we were doing like one voice taking care of the higher register and the other one doubling in the low register.
Yeah.
But for example, since we don't have wave shaping for these oscillators, the waveforms are set. We can set them both to the same octave scale. So let's set to 8 or something like that. Different wave shapes, and we can see that we get permutations of. So both motor voices, as well as the digital voice, which we'll get to later, each voice has its own separately controllable amp envelope section, where we can change all kinds of things, such as the amp envelope types, and it's a true polyphonic. So like each one of the 4 notes for each voice can have its own amplitude envelope. And we have a pitch envelope section here that we have named here acceleration and break. So you can use it as a fine-tunable portamento
thing.
Can
we hear that? Can I have a little play?
Absolutely. We can set separate controls for the falling and rising edge. So we're just listening to one voice now.
Oh, it sounds emotional, man. This. Do you know what I mean? I know I play I play Disney all the time.
Yeah.
So, but it's so good.
I mean, so we just wanted to.
Bon Iver needs this. Novo Amor needs this.
I mean, there's lots of microtonal things, and like the gliding property of the motors.
Yeah, and James Blake. I want to hear James Blake shredding on it.
There's for example, the cool thing about it is like when we have, like all synths have a detune thing, but here you're actually shifting the speed of the rotation of the. So this detune feels special, like because we're actually like changing the rotation speed of those motors like out of
voice
phase.
Or oscillator?
Yeah, it's you can.
So that's like slop, is it?
Here we're actually like morphing the rotation speed of them. You can even see the, for example, even if we, so that's kind of cool. It somehow feels more special than just like.
It does feel more special.
Like all aspects of this synth that have to do with the like gliding properties of the motors. That's the best part for me. For example, just hit a drone and then you can just pop them back into shape. Apply some of that portamento, and it just slides back into it. So that's why we kind of dedicated a substantial like portion of the interface to controlling the portamento. For example, you can do an ARP that has like an up-down pattern, and then you can individually control the rising or falling edge of the pitch. For example, the up portion of the ARP will be like that, and then the falling part will be just straight up. So you can do lots of interesting things with that.
We're going to get there, and we haven't even.
Yeah.
Because that blew my mind what you did, and I'm going to ask you about it in a minute.
And then there's
Filter Town.
Filter Town. There's a multi-mode analog filter section with. Also, we've got like. So this is where the synth gets paraphonic. So each voice has its own digitally controlled analog multi-mode filter. It's kind of a polyvox style filter. We can do the filter sweep thing as well.
Let's do it. Nick Bat, this is for you, baby.
All right, so just one voice. Maximum resonance. Cover your ear holes. I don't think that was the most cleanest filter sweeping technique on YouTube, but we get the idea, right?
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. And then we got the drive control. That's one voice as well.
Oh my goodness.
And then now I'm gonna add some AD envelope or something like that. I'm gonna blend in some other voices as well, because we're still listening to one. So the cool thing about the synth, what we just heard, by the way, I'm sorry if I'm just ruining your moment.
Incredible.
So the cool thing about the synth is that like we don't have to just live with one like cutoff frequency for all three voices. We can just offset them as much as we like, because each voice has its own its own filter.
How do you do that?
So for example, right now, like we've got like a low pass filter that's closed. We can double tap on the digital voice alone and just open that up. And we can add some key tracking. Get to control the whole thing as an offset. So we can offset the cutoff points between each other. I think in terms of philosophy, we like the motors a lot, and it's an interesting like idea, and obviously it's an interesting sound.
Yeah.
But we felt that like how like that we need to kind of find ways to combat the limitations of those oscillators, and that's why we've invested a lot of thought into making sure that each voice is almost fully independently controllable. It's got, for example, voice 1 can have an AD type envelope, pitch, glide, portamento, and its own like completely different, like it can have a band pass filter setting that goes in a looping AD envelope mode, and it can have a lot of drive on it. And then voice 2 can be a clean, low, like ADSR envelope, just straight up, like sine bass voice with no filtering, and then the third voice, the digital voice, can have like a modulated filter going on. So there you can pretty much do independent control for all three voices for the amp envelope, the pitch envelope, and the filter.
Wow.
And then there's extensive modulation section as well.
Before we get to Modulation Town, you touched upon this digital voice. That's new for Mark II, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what we haven't spoke about that. How's that implemented? And
so the digital voice is the synth has a very particular sound, and it blends really well with other synths. So we just kind of we wanted to make sure that some of the features that the motor voices cannot offer, such as pulse width modulation or wave folding or some stuff like that, since the wave shapes are set in place, you know, on the discs, and you know, we can't do pulse width modulation or wave folding or
yeah. So
or for example, we can't generate noise with using these. So the digital voice is just an added feature there to make the whole experience of playing the motor synth a little bit more complete. And yeah, we've spent a lot of time fine-tuning the digital voice so that we're all really happy with it, and I think it just we all think it complements the synth really well.
I think what I would love to know is digital voice, and you said those things like wave, noise. Is it a kind of like a kitchen sink? Does it do all the classic analog waveforms?
Yeah.
Does it do wave tables?
No, it doesn't. We decided to just make the like.
Oh, cool.
Say
so how do we choose?
Yeah, for example, there's a menu.
Sounds great.
There's a menu. Just okay. Let's digital voice on its own, and we can add that. Yeah, we can use that to enhance the motor synth, motor voices.
So we've done all the voices.
A cool thing you can do with the digital voice, you can also send it through the analog filters. You can send it through the filters of voice 1 or voice 2. For example, here I can send it through both of these filters. Like it kind of lives in a bit deeper connection with the motors. So, for example, I can show you a preset that takes full advantage of this. For example, this preset here.
I can't believe you've got presets.
Oh yeah, we've got lots of presets.
Can you build all this and then go, yeah, let's put presets in it?
That's the motor voices. And now we've got the digital voice that's doing a drone on top, which is the throat modulated thing. So for example, this is something that the motor voices couldn't do. You can't fold it like that. Digital voice is modulating the pulse width, and folding is being modulated by the mod section. So we can also do some parameter recording.
Oh, come on!
So, for example, what I did just now is that I used up 4 of the 8 available motion record lanes. So there's 8 motion rec lanes, and I did some changes to the scale of the digital voice, scale of this voice, some filter stuff, and then like a little detune thing. You were asking about the digital voice,
yeah,
so
and guess what? It
stuff.
sounds freaking incredible. We've done the digital voice, we've done all of this.
Yeah.
You just said 8 lanes. That implies sequencer, arpeggiation, and do you want to do that before modulation?
We can, sure. We've expanded upon the modulators in the Mark II version, so now they're fully assignable. So
it's amazing. I just want to. I get we just want to listen to it, but I'm trying to. I hear that stuff and it's magic what you're doing. Have we got any like specs on the sequencer? Do we do that?
Sequencer.
You know,
Okay,
like
we've got the ARP. For example, let's start with the ARP.
Okay, cool.
You can make it faster. Gate length. Randomize
and you were
everything.
talking about the pitch envelope changing up and down, so fully featured up.
So there's a bunch of things in the synth that I think we think are cool. For example, here we're accenting every fourth step of the sequence. We can limit the pattern length to a maximum amount of steps, so it resets. We can edit the rhythm individually. We can edit steps. For example, just select these steps, unmute them, and now we have a standard like 16th note thing, where we can just select other steps and unmute them. We can do ratcheting, probabilities, velocity. So it's a lot of options, kind of for this. So select a few steps, and I can just ratchet them. Make the envelopes much shorter. And then when you get into these like weird percussive natural sounding sounds, it's funny to think that it's being done by an electromotor or something like that, you know? Sounds like wood blocks or something.
Yeah.
In reality, it's kind of funny, like I think the synth has a lot of sounds that are soft, and there's also a lot of harsh sounds available. For example, the cross-mod engine makes everything sound. This is the cross modulation engine. So now it's applied only to voice 2. So how the cross mod works is like, for example, here we've got cross mod screen, and I can set that I'm only going to cross mod the output of voice 2 with the pitch, with the frequency of voice 1, and I can multiply that frequency. And I can also change the pulse width of the wave shape that's modulating that. Another thing I can do, for example, with the mod section is I can go here. I'm gonna just assign. I can assign the mod to any parameter. For example, now the pulse width of the cross mod engine. As I kind of mentioned earlier, we made sure that like any limitations that the motor voices may have on their own are compensated by crazy amounts of flexibility in other features. You want to hear some other sounds?
Yeah.
Okay, so just show you
There's
like
not
a super
bad sound in it. You haven't.
Even acoustically, it sounds mad.
Yeah. I've never seen anyone get that deep, and it all sounds so musical. You've either rehearsed an incredible amount,
Yeah.
but I don't think you have. And I just think
No.
it's testament to the gear that everything that's coming out of it.
I mean, I made some of these presets, and for example, this is one that I really, really like.
Yeah.
This is a preset that I really like a lot. It's so funny because like it's electromotor synth, but it sounds like wooden instruments or something. I don't know. So this is a flute type. don't even need to play all this stuff, right?
No.
Just use the buttons.
How are they assigned? Do you assign the pitch of each button?
Yeah, so you can just load up a scale and you can't go wrong. Pentatonic.
Killer.
So it can go, you can do the softer stuff.
People are going to mic this up as well and blend it in.
So it can,
Because it's so, they marry in pitch. I don't know how you've done it. They sound all harmonically linked. It's not, you know what I mean?
and then, okay, and then.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
You're like, yeah, I
thanks for
made
the
it. Of course I
compliment.
know what I mean.
Yes, we married the pitch. Yes, like we married them. And then, like you can also get aggressive sounds, such as.
Changing so.
So we've got an ARP engine that I showed off a little bit.
Yeah.
I showed some presets. We're getting chaotic at this point.
It's fine. I'm just going to check what's
but,
on the back, how it hooks up with things. Well, because we're going for, in terms of connectivity, seems like we've got loads of for the modular heads.
Yeah, we've got.
Send and return. What's that for?
You can insert effects onto voice 1 and voice 2. Like, so I've showed off a little bit of the ARP. So basically, it's a cool ARP engine when you can do up to 16th note long, 16 step long, like rhythm patterns that can be used with the ARPs. Wow. And we have a whole preset kind of bank that's dedicated to cool ARPs. So for example, this one's nice. Also some silly ones. So the ARP engine is pretty flexible and interesting. And then we've got a sequencer. The sequencer, it can be it can be used very simply. For example, you can just select all steps, mute all steps, then select like this, and you have now select all.
Wow.
And for example, while a sequencer is running, you can change the preset as well.
Does it respond to aftertouch as well?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But that depends on the preset. You can program that. So, for example, a simple sequencing. Right now, we're just doing.
That feels so amazing to press down and then see a motor move with your aftertouch.
What we can do, another thing we can do is we can just select some steps. For example, these 4 steps. We can randomize those steps. It's kind of cool when you're, synths that generate their own sequences, that's sometimes that's useful, you know, when you want to like do more like electronic music jams and stuff like that. Obviously, like this is the rock organ preset, so it's meant to be played with a keyboard, but I found it for some reason it works really well with the electronic, like just like sequencer riffs. change the master setting for the key. So we can do minor pentatonic and major pentatonic. Randomize some steps. We can match the motion recordings to the BPM. So yeah, you can use it for all sorts of things. For example, this was kind of like an electronic, like you could almost like imagine that it needs a beat or something like that. Yeah. So for example, there's an input on the back of the motor synth, and you were just mentioning ins and out, inputs, outputs. Mm-hmm. So if you can send a trigger or a kick drum into the motor synth, and then it can generate its own ducking envelope, and you can sidechain voices one by one. For example, so this sequence here, if you send a kick into it, you can just quickly...
God, I almost fell off my chair, I'm so excited!
Yeah. Sure. Okay, yeah, if you just add a kick drum, if you want to add a kick drum to this sequence, then you can send, for example, you can send one trigger off of your sequencer into the output, into the input here, and use that to generate a ducking envelope, and you can adjust the envelope quite precisely. Another thing you can do is you can send a CV signal into the triggers. There's assignable triggers and CV inputs here on the back. So you can use an external sequencer to do step advances for the sequence, or for the ARP. For example, I have a sequencer that I can just set. I'm just gonna I'll randomly select like 12 out of 16 steps in a channel and just send that into the trigger, and that will advance my sequence. So that disconnects from the master BPM, and you can just advance the sequencer or the ARP engine in a weird way, and you can also send CVs to pretty much modulate any parameter. So on the synth, so that's cool. But yeah, the kick drum can be copy of the kick drum. You can send that into the audio input, and there's an input signal like envelope follower that can be used to sidechain or to duck, and you can assign that to individual voices. So lots of flexibility in terms of inputs, outputs. Obviously, you've got the MIDI in and out, and MIDI over USB. Mm-hmm.
It's an absolute marvel, mate, isn't it? Absolutely. Oh, so you've never heard of this before until today, right? Absolutely not. Can you believe it? No.
It's awesome.
And I'm so happy.
Thanks so much for letting me like go on and on about all this highly detailed technical.
No, thank you.
Clutch function as well.
Oh yeah, we need to.
Right.
Good call. Clutch, right?
Yeah.
So what clutch is?
Well, you thought of that. No one else has thought of this before.
So what clutch is? While you're holding clutch, you can make all sorts of changes to the synth. And then when you release clutch, then you can hear that in action. For example, you've got a note. So I've got the sequence going, for example. Okay, clutch, whatever. Cut off, let's drive. And I can also use that, for example, to do the motion recording. So I can open the motion rec screen. Let's clear everything. Okay, cool. So now, arm the motion recorder, press clutch. So now I've recorded those jumps in parameter using the clutch. So now I can use the clutch to change the note, change the cross mod, detune, volume, scale, anything, drive, resonance, frequency. because that way you can do like nice drops sometimes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but
It should be on everything.
Yeah,
I think I watched a video a year ago, and you said, "I can't believe no one's done it," and still no one's done it.
Yeah,
I just did the new a new Nord keyboard. They should have, because that it should be. You were the first people to ever think of it, and then once you've heard of it, heard about it, you can't go back.
Yeah, I like how. So I was trying to like explain this to that in that Sonic State video a year ago at Superbooth to Nick Bat.
Yeah.
So like the clutch is like when you hold the thing and then you can change things, and like when you release it, only then you hear it. And he was like, right, so it's like a temporary edit buffer. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, so this is it's
chopping
a
it down.
temporary editing buffer. Yeah. So that's all I should have said, I guess. But yeah. But the thing that in reality is like you can hold it, change things, and then.
Yeah, there's loads of ways to do that. And I thought you showed it beautifully there.
Thank you so
you
much.
said there was a way. I mean, this has been. Thank you so much for going through it, man. I really
Thanks
appreciate it.
for letting me talk for so long, man.
No, it's right. We had all the chapters.
Who's editing this? Like, please, sorry. Oh, okay.
But
Sorry,
now
man.
I'm very shallow, and a lot of my videos are like very shallow. So this is nice to go deep now and again. And thank you for being here. We'll do an audio-only one as well, which is have a look for that in the description. Also, if you stayed this long, please consider liking and subscribing. We give away stuff when we get to milestones. We just remarkably hit one. Can we jam out at the end?
Absolutely. Give me a sound. What do you want to? So we got. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's choose the preset bank.
I'll go wherever you take me.
Okay. Pads.
Yeah.
Not maybe later. Bass.
Wherever you want to go, man.
Lead. Arp.
I'll follow you.
So our main engineer Martin, he spent an honest 4 years of working on the motor synth. He's the guy responsible for almost all of the code and many things in the synth and a lot of the circuitry and filters, envelopes, you name it. And he is one of the co-founders of Gamechanger Audio. He gave himself a challenge, I guess, to create a full cinematic, like Vangelis Space Journey type composition using only motor synth sounds. So that track is called "See You Soon, My Stardust Friend," and it's up on YouTube on the Gamechanger Audio channel. Yeah. So if you guys could please send some people our way to watch Martin's song.
Yeah.
So it's an epic space journey.
And say thanks, Martin, for making this, because this is so unique.
So all 40
a work of love.
All 40 of the sounds that were used in that song are included in the motor synth as the Stardust preset bank. So we've got sounds like Wormhole. We've got, this is how engineers labeled their presets. Lead 1, lead 2, lead 3.
I love it.
Yeah. Plucky, sorry, this is called Plucky Pad. So yeah, you should...
It feels different. You've got to come into the store to try this. This is the best thing about Andertons branching out into interesting new things like this, is that you can come and try this in the shop. We're going to have one to try in case they're not already all sent out. And also we do amazing return policies and finance policies, which means you can just try this out.
Yeah.
Because it feels like you've got a frickin' something different on the end of your fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think this is a great instrument. Okay, no, but seriously, I think this is like we have our philosophy and why we make crazy stuff like this is like what if we're gonna make a new instrument in year 2023 or whatever. Like we want to make sure that it's something that it's a technological challenge, that it's an inspirational experience playing it. Because let's face it, we feed off of vibes, emotions. You know, like tactile response that you get from stuff like the light pedal, the Bigsby pedal, the plasma, and also the motors. Like that's what our company is all about. We want to make beautiful things that have interesting interfaces and kind of a nice visual kind of and tactile response. And also something new that cannot be just emulated in a DAW or in a VST preset. So that's kind of our policy. Like we don't want to make things that can be just recreated like easily or modeled or just copied.
Well, you're not. You're doing it.
Thank you so much for talking.
No, this is great. Well, we're going to spend a bit of time and we'll get some audio. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon on Andertons Television.
This thing is wicked.
It's the best sounding thing
That is
we've had in here.